welcome to the FBC podcast. As always, my name is Justin and I'm joined today by Nathan.
Hello.
And Greg.
Hello.
For those of you unfamiliar with the show, what we do every week is we pick 8 teams, 8 fixtures, and we combine them into an accumulator for the weekend, or in this case also midweek, and we review what we did before, as well as talking about what we are, our picks for the forthcoming week. We should just say there are a few rules. One of the basic ones is one of our picks for the 8-game accumulator has to be over 1.4 and the second pick has to be over 1.65. Right. We use the decimalisation version rather than a fractional version, but if you wanted to convert those on whichever betting website you used, it is very easy to do.
Okay, so obviously there's 3 of us here. And we all pick 2 bets each, and then also the other bet is
mysterious.
Mysterious
person
tipped by the wild card.
I've heard a rumour.
What is the rumour this week about the wild card?
Given the wild card's current form, I think, and this I've got to say, I think there's some truth in this. The wild card is actually 12 years old and lives at home with his mum.
Yeah, I mean, how would you summarise that form? Is it youthful?
I think it's the form
immature.
I think it's the form of a child that is just pointing at fixtures on the back of his dad's newspaper.
Or it could be FIFA form. A lot of 12-year-olds back FIFA. They play a lot of FIFA. Maybe he's winning like every week. With teams are good on FIFA.
Yeah, he probably thinks Aidan McGeady's a world beater. He's got 5-star skills.
Considering the wild card's current form is under 50% for his picks, you could actually make the case that a team of monkeys could pick better picks.
Oh, that's a bit low there. Even I'm feeling sorry for the wild card.
Out of a hat, you hopefully get better than 50%.
So what you're saying is that the wild card might even be a 12-year-old monkey.
It might even. Wow. I mean, can monkeys use Twitter? I'm not sure.
I don't know. I haven't been to London Zoo recently, but if you go and you see one holding a phone, then wild card.
I did have a few shout-outs this week on Twitter, actually, saying that could they be the wild card? These random Twitter followers.
Really?
They said, "Could we be the wild?" I said, "It's not. It doesn't change every week." Although I'm starting to think it could.
Probably quite a good idea with his recent form. Yeah.
He is consistent. I think a consistent person. But never mind. Yeah. So it is us 3 and the wild card who picks together 8 games. And we put it all together into an 8-game accumulator to win a total financial oblivion, usually, financial kind of reward at the end of it. But you could pick just 2, 3, 4 picks of these. You don't have to pick them all. Obviously, it's just selections, just suggestions of what would be good value in the market that week.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm gonna review last week's bet. I'm gonna go first because I do believe that I am the most informed bettor of the FBC crew at the moment.
I admit you are.
And the thing is, it's fine for most people to admit that, but it seems very difficult for the rest of the FBC to be able to admit that. So I'm quite proud at the moment. I'm very proud because I get lambasted on the show every week.
Every week, Nathan says, everyone feels sorry for me. Nobody...
It's because it's true.
Nobody gives me the credit I deserve.
Here's my issue with it.
Go on then, Justin. Right. Hit me with these.
I feel as though you are more concerned with your league standing than you are with the all-round winning of the FBC.
I would not disagree with that.
You wouldn't disagree with that.
I wouldn't. Obviously, I would like us to win because when we have bets...
I would hope so.
When we have bets, we kind of formulate them and put them on the spreadsheet. So we have a bit of a league table between the 4 of us and see whose bets are most successful. I'm currently 3rd, just behind Justin because Justin's in 2nd, Greg is at top, and the wild card is languishing down the relegation zone.
Here's my question to you, and I said this the other day, I think, in conversation. Would you swap places with the wild card if it meant we landed a few accumulators before the end of the season?
Yeah.
I undoubtedly would. I'm not convinced you would.
I would. No, I would. I definitely would. However, I just have this thing in me at the moment where I'm probably not going to win because Greg is streets ahead, but I definitely don't want to be bottom and I definitely want to beat Justin. So it is, it's the second set, it's Djokovic versus Murray. I just need to push it home and get the 3rd set.
Wait, who's Djokovic and who's Murray?
It's tennis players. No, it's a tennis.
I'm Djokovic, obviously.
Yeah, you are Djokovic,
It is nice to be at top of the league. I've got to say, considering I was last for a large part of last season and even this season, actually, at the start, it was horrible. It's a horrible feeling when you kind of essentially letting your teammates down all the time. And to be top is quite a good feeling. People are stopping me in the street, signing autographs on a regular basis. That's quite nice. But I would swap it all just for the 8-gamer to come in a couple of times this season. It would be good. That's the best feeling we had last season when we landed it. Yeah, that was fantastic. That was a fantastic weekend, and we were loving that. So
just think how the wild card feels. The wild card. Imagine how he feels. We have hundreds of thousands of followers in the UK and specifically Greece. Yeah. So imagine how he is feeling about how he's, letting down so many people.
Well, it's an internationally recognised loser.
Yeah, well, he's giving out picks that lose on a regular basis. It's not going to be good. But at least tonight he will be all right, I think. And,
hopefully. Let's see. Well, I'll start.
Yeah, we'll refer to that in a bit.
I'll start by reviewing last weekend's bets. I bet at 1.5 odds Leicester at home to beat Norwich, which was a 1-0 victory for Leicester. Very, very tight. Leicester had 58% of possession in that game, which is probably what they're not used to. They only had 3 shots on target. And obviously one went in. Norwich had 1 shot on target, so I'm very, very pleased with that.
Last minute Ulloa goal.
Ulloa, yeah. I was very pleased because it was very, very tight. But the whole nation, as if they were a neutral football fan, were wanting Leicester to score, and it happened. So I think we're all very pleased about that.
I think something that's quite interesting about that is something I think we've discussed in the past, is that we've talked about how everyone this season has probably still seen themselves as having a chance of beating Leicester, whereas Norwich actually went there, parked the bus, and played without that naivety and made it really, really difficult for Leicester. And Leicester found that quite difficult to overcome, because I think a lot of teams go there thinking we can actually win Leicester and not really respecting what Leicester have achieved this season.
Which probably makes their chances of doing something similar next season all the more difficult, because
absolutely.
All the fixtures they've already
wise up.
So.
Having said that, people have known this all season and they still can't really stop them winning. Obviously, I know they drew yesterday.
But West Brom yesterday did play a sweeper. To kind of counteract this, and you would never do that against Leicester. You never play 5 men at the back or whatever they did yesterday to try and counteract.
They did play 5 at the back.
I mean, it's just like you say, a good observation.
But Leicester won, so Ulloa won, so that one came off. Very pleased about that. And also, for those people who didn't tune into for last week's podcast, there was a bit of a sole blame, which is where one person's bets let the rest down. Let everyone down, and that's what happened to the wild card when he bet Bournemouth at home. To score, both teams to score against Everton, and I thought that I was going to back that again and back Bournemouth, both teams to score. However, I decided against it because of the failure of that bet, and I backed instead AC Milan to beat Torino, and they won again 1-0. Milan had 11 shots off target, sorry. So they did have chances, but they still managed to get the goal, and I think Antonelli scored just before half time. So he brought it down for me, and that was 2 out of 2.
Yeah, do you think you were a bit lucky with the Milan game? I mean, that's quite streaky 1-0.
As we will speak about a little bit later on, because I'm on a good bit of form, but quite a lot of my games have been very close, or there've been quite a lot of missed chances. So although I'm very pleased to have got good form at the moment, I am also very aware that I've probably been a bit lucky. But at the end of the day, that's what happens when you gamble, isn't it?
No, that's true. And you got 2 out of 2, so you're now 6 from 6 for the last 3 weeks, or last 3 rounds, which is excellent form. So I can't really knock you, but over to Justin.
Yeah, so I picked 2 last week, and the first one, I'll talk about the one that I lost first, and that was Gillingham to beat Chesterfield at home at 1.83. Now, I don't feel too bad about this. The reason being that I was watching the Red Button, and
you like the Red Button. This is twice it's come up.
This is because I don't subscribe to Sky Sports News.
Okay. Neither do I, so it's fine.
Anyway, so I was watching that, and they cut to their Football League kind of guy, some bald guy with a moustache. I don't know his name. He also presents the non-league football on BT Sport. Okay. Anyway, and he actually said these words: "Shock of the day in the Football League. Gillingham are trailing 2-0 to Chesterfield." And that's just going to happen sometimes. Sometimes you're going to pick something which should win all day long, but you happen to be the mug that ends up picking the shock of the day.
I know how that feels.
Yeah. So I don't feel too bad about that, in the sense that it's just bad luck. I picked something that 9 times out of 10 they would have won, but I picked it on the bad day, and it was, as they said on the BBC, the shock of the day. I do want to go to my next one, which is actually the Monday night game. By this point, unfortunately, the bet was kind of redundant
Yeah.
in that we'd already lost. But I picked Brighton to go against Leeds. Now, I got a little bit of slack from you guys last week about this one because Leeds are kind of unpredictable. But what is predictable is that they're not going to win. They've drawn or lost the last 9 or 10 games, and they got absolutely murdered by Brighton.
Yeah, four quick goals, wasn't it?
It was 4-0. I think the fourth of those goals came in the 38th minute, so it was 4-0 before 40 minutes.
What were the odds on that pick?
Sorry, that was 1.83.
So
In fact, both
great value for
both picks were 1.83.
Yeah,
so Gillingham let me down at 1.83, but Brighton came through at 1.83.
That's massive now, considering they're at home as well to Leeds. That's a very good selection.
Yeah.
Brighton are in a very good run of form. I think they've won 4-0 twice now in the past week or so. So they've done pretty well.
Coming good at the right time of the season.
Exactly.
So I guess we move on to you, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of quite happy with mine, and I had Plymouth to beat someone, and I had the one that let me down was Accrington, and it was Accrington Barnet.
Was that 2-2?
Yeah,
it was 2-2, and Accrington were 2-0 up, and they were absolutely cruising, and I had quite an eye on the other games because they were kind of like in and out of form, and I just thought Accrington is so done already. They're in good form, you know, and they're absolutely flying. And for Barnet to score 2 late goals, I think it was after the 80th minute they scored 2 goals.
It was, yeah.
I was absolutely.
I think one was really late on, 89th, 90th.
I think one of them was injury time because I remember thinking, you know, am I going to be one of? I was worried about sole blame at one point. I'm not sure that was worthwhile in the end because the wild card was still involved. But I was almost a little bit relieved to see that goal go in because I think at one point it looked like I was going to get sole blame.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean the other game Plymouth was fine. So Plymouth top of the league and they cruised in 1-0. But I was fairly happy with that double. And League Two's been quite kind to me, so I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah, you quite like a bit of League Two, don't you?
Yeah, looking at my individual stats for those leagues, that's my go-to.
Yeah.
My wins ratio is not great this year. I've only managed to kind of get about 50% of my win bets have only come in. Whereas my both
so
teams
that's discounting both teams to score and everything. Just the team to win.
Just a team to win a game.
Yeah.
I'm only got 50%. But my both teams to score has literally propelled me to the top of the league. So that's kind of my bankers really. So I was quite risky there to go for 2 wins. But
So bear that in mind if you're thinking about having following Greg on Twitter at Greg_FBC, thinking about his recent form, maybe 50% in his to win is a bit of an issue there. So we're going to move on to the wild cards bets.
Yeah.
And his first one, which did not come off, was Stuttgart to win versus Hanover at 1.53, and Hanover got a 2-1 win, which against everything we thought. I mean, if you listen to last week's last week's podcast, which is available on www.thefootballbetclub.com.
And we should mention that it is also on Facebook.
It's also on Facebook. Thank you very much, Justin. If you actually go back to that, you'd see that it got quite a bit of love around the table.
Yeah,
people really thought that Stuttgart were going to go in because they were scoring quite a few goals, and Hanover in a poor run of form.
Yeah, I think if you look at the 3 that let us down last week, we got 5 out of 8 right, which isn't too bad. But if you look at the 3 that let us down, Gillingham, Stuttgart, and Accrington, I think they probably would have been like the 3 that we thought were most solid about. And they were all quite good picks. I mean, the problem I think we all expressed our concern with the fact it was a 2:30 kickoff. It was kind of, we could see it was going to lose by about 3:30, and it was like, it's a bit disappointing because to be let down on your anchor in the first one is what everyone doesn't want. And
that's why we avoid the lunchtime kickoffs.
Yeah,
I'm starting to get to the point where I really don't know if we should include the 2:30s anymore. I know some of you are quite keen on betting on the Bundesliga.
I like the Bundesliga.
Yeah,
I think it's
good
something
for
a little
goals.
bit different.
It's good for goals.
For example, I mean, there's quite a few weeks where I look through the British divisions and the UK divisions, and I'm quite struggling for a good bet, a good odd. So I might go abroad, have a look at current form, have a look at players injured. I might just have a little, gander over there, and it's just another avenue. So I don't back it too often. I have done, and it's not really kind of patting me on the back, but I will, have a look on there. So I quite like it, but I do understand the reasoning though, because it does ruin the bet by 4 o'clock.
Yeah, it's possible. But So there we go. What else did he pick?
The second one was the League Cup final, which is both teams to score versus Liverpool and Man City. Sorry, at 1.7, which did come off.
Did come in just about, yeah.
It was just about. Tell me more about the just about.
Well, I mean, just before we talk about that, I wasn't aware of this. I'm assuming the wild card was aware of this, but actually that fixture has yielded now 34 goals in 9 fixtures. It's a fixture with a hell of a lot of goals, and I didn't actually know that until I was actually watching the footage, and someone mentioned it in the preamble to the game.
I'm sure the wild card knew that. I'm sure.
I'd like to think he, saw it on the back
of his
I
like to think the rumours about the wild card that he does work for Opta, the stats. Well, I'm not advertising them, but I do think that he works for some high-level statistical. Maybe he's just sort of banker, maybe he was the man who brought down the financial crisis.
And do they employ 12-year-old monkeys?
Well, I don't know.
Who plays
the boy from the Homeless adverts? He's doing
he does play FIFA, so he's got credentials there, but. That was an interesting game. Game. I did watch that, and I was really glad when Liverpool got into it because they probably deserved it because Man City weren't that impressive. But obviously, you love it when it goes to penalties and extra time.
I have to say, I had a very difficult time watching that game because I never want Liverpool to win.
As an Evertonian,
I never want Liverpool to win, and in the end, I was quite relieved they didn't win. But at the same time, I don't like Man City. I don't think they deserved their place in the final either because they had a very controversial goal in the semi-final against Everton.
Was that against Everton by any chance?
Well,
yes,
we all saw the ball cross the line. We might have lost the game anyway eventually, but that goal should never have stood. But in the end, I'd rather, even though they cheated to get there, I'd rather see Man City win it than Liverpool.
Yeah, I mean, for me to see Man City go up 1-0, there were lots of chances, but Raheem Sterling missed 2 absolute gilt edges. One was just embarrassingly easy. Yeah. And that game should have been put to bed so long before Liverpool.
They should have been 3-0 up.
And if
agreed.
3-0 up, I mean, the BTTS, if they'd gone 2-0 up, I'm not sure that BTTS would have come in necessarily. But to be fair, the game was quite open, so I mean, it was a good bet. It
was an entertaining game to watch, just on a personal level. I thought it was quite interesting. There was always something going on. He went to the extra time, went to the penalties. There was penalty saves, which is always good, rather than people missing.
Willie Caballero
I've got to say, you laid into Mr. Caballero well before the game, and I said to you, you don't get his level of experience and have played his much football in La Liga and been nominated for awards in La Liga without being a half decent keeper. He had a bad game against Chelsea when they played their youth
He was
players.
awful against Chelsea.
Yeah, but every keeper's had a bad day. And I said to you, you don't get that far in the game without having something about you.
He's certainly a better keeper than Simon Mignolet.
Mignolet, Liverpool. Can you say that?
Although Mignolet made a couple of cracking saves late,
but only after he let Howler in.
Yeah, I know. But
for me, Caballero, I think he is a good player. He has historically been a good player. The problem is he just doesn't convince me. He doesn't play very often, so I understand that. Bit of empathy, maybe he's a bit rusty. But just because you save a couple of penalties doesn't make you a good goalie. That's a part.
Save a couple of penalties in the League Cup final.
Yeah, but that's a part of a much bigger thing, isn't it? You've got crosses, you've got coming out of your line, you've got shot stopping, you've got everything, distribution. You think of all the factors. That is an issue. And obviously, maybe it has a bigger significance now than he has, but I don't think he is convincing.
I think he's been a victim of one of these this idea that some people look at a player who's come from abroad, they feel like they don't know much about him, and so on and so forth. He has one bad game, and then he's instantly he's instantly degraded for it, and I think it's unjust, and I think it's Pellegrini has a lot of faith in him. He's played for Pellegrini before, and Pellegrini wouldn't have brought him in. He's 36.
Yeah,
is
he's
he?
an old boy, isn't he?
But they still paid nearly £6 million for him.
Yeah,
and you don't do that unless he's got something about him.
Yeah, I mean one other thing came out. I think some man who's got a lot of class about him is Pellegrini. I think I'm starting to like him more and more, even despite the fact he's
I've always been a fan.
I'm really quite like the way he talks, the way he mannerisms and everything. But one man I don't like, and I used to love, is Yaya Toure. Just because
he's so lazy.
So lazy. I mean, if you compare Yaya Toure's work rate with Kante from Leicester, it's just a different level. And I know he's a different kind of player and he does a different job. But in that final, and it was 1-1, he could have lost. And he was just walking about, and he had a bit of an injury. He did a disgusting kind of retaliation challenge on someone. I can't remember who it was now in that game. And I just thought
it was Lallana, and they got into it afterwards.
Fight, and I just thought it was horrible. And he scored the winning penalty. And he just kind of ran off to celebrate himself. I did think he didn't cover himself in glory.
That was an interesting part when he scored the penalty.
He ran off somewhere else, and all the teammates
went to Caballero. Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting fact.
Afterwards on Twitter, don't know if you saw it, where they're all in the changing room celebrating with all the champagne and everything else. And Yo-Yo was in the corner on his own, in the back of the photo on his own, and all the rest of the players were in the thing. So there's obviously something not quite right there.
Well, there's been a few things in the past, hasn't he? Like handed in transfer requests because Man City didn't get him a birthday present, or they didn't recognise his birthday.
Did he actually hand in a transfer request at that point? I think he just kicked up a fuss.
Or his agent kicked up a fuss about how Man City didn't have any respect for him because they didn't acknowledge his birthday.
I mean, he's a brilliant footballer. I mean, he's scored some incredible goals, and he scores some brilliant stuff. And it's a brilliant player. But sometimes he just gets on my nerves.
It's a fact, and it's a given that he won't be there next year. Because maybe he's not good enough anymore, but also that Guardiola's there, and Guardiola and him have had a run-in before, which is why he moved from Barcelona in the first place.
I think age, he's 31 now. I think age is catching up with him, and there's all this money being spent in China. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to China over the summer.
Or Everton.
Anyway,
I was going to say Coventry City, but
obviously we've had this team. We've had this massive investment, which no one really knows anything about, but I think we'll talk about that at a more relevant time.
Okay.
So this week was an interesting week because we obviously had last weekend, which we just reviewed.
Busy week.
But also we had some midweek fixtures, so there's a full round of Premiership games and League games on the Tuesday and Wednesday of this week. And as we are recording this, there are still some bets to come in.
Yeah.
So some games we recorded on the we were coming on the Tuesday, but as we recording this, some of the Wednesday night games are not in. So I think I'll go first. We've been informed.
I think we should just mention that, however, even though we didn't record a podcast, the bets were available for anyone to view prior to the kickoffs at www.thefootballbetclub.com.
Yeah, we're available from Monday, so we usually try and give a couple of days' notice of those things. We just were very busy, so the podcast wasn't available. But yeah, they're all up there on the website. Nathan, what were your first selections on that midweek?
So for the second time in the past few days, last weekend and also this weekend, I backed Norwich to lose, and this time it was against Chelsea. So Chelsea went away to Norwich. That was 1.7. Chelsea won 2-1. And it's interesting that you spoke a few minutes ago about how I was, having a few kind of squeaky wins, in my recent form. And I think this kind of counts. But one thing that I'm very thankful for is that Cameron Jerome plays for Norwich. Because if they had a substantial striker with proven Premier League goal-scoring capabilities, they probably would have got a draw against Leicester because he missed a sitter. But also, he missed a couple of chances against Chelsea on Tuesday night. And therefore, he has really got me in the bank in terms of this week's bets. So Chelsea won 2-1 away at Norwich, and it was 1.7. So I'm pretty pleased about that. Even though actually Norwich, they played a 5-4-2. So they kind of had 5 at the back. They tried to park the bus. They did try and kind of counter attack with Nathan Redmond. So I'm pretty pleased with that.
Yeah, it looks a solid bet now. It looks a solid bet. 1.7 for Chelsea. Looks good. So.
I've got to say I worry for Norwich. I think Norwich, along with Villa, I think Norwich are the other team in big trouble.
Yeah. I put, just to intercede there, sorry. I actually put, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I put a bet on Villa. I put a bet on Norwich and also Bournemouth in the same bet to go down. Yeah, and it was 26-1 at the point. And I know that Bournemouth have won midweek and that it's a big 3 points for them. But I really think that they go down. I think that Newcastle probably will get more wins.
I think Sunderland are going to.
But Sunderland, with Big Sam at the helm, I think they really have a chance. They are much better than what they were.
I've got to say, I agree with Nathan. I think big result last night. They went 1-0 up, then they went 2-1 down. They could have folded, but they managed to equalise against Crystal Palace. Massive result there.
And they played well against West Ham.
I think they've got a lot of fight in them, and I think they'll pick up a couple of wins before now and the end of the season. I think Sunderland could be the ones to scrape their way out.
Jermaine Defoe, who can score goals, and Cameron Jerome is not Jermaine Defoe in terms of the goal scoring. So Norwich haven't got the same kind of firepower.
True.
So,
that's the main thing. I mean, obviously Costa. I got a bit lucky again, as I'm saying. I am very lucky at the moment. But Costa scored the second goal, which won them the game to make them 2-0 up because they got a consolation later on. But that was offside by all due accounts. There it was. So it's quite interesting about Chelsea because I was a bit nervous about backing them because I know they're undefeated in 12 now under Hiddink, and
Apart from BSG.
In the
PSG
Champions
beat them.
League,
Of course,
Undefeated
in the league anyway. But I was a bit
And the
worried.
cup.
I was a bit in cup, but I was a bit worried about backing them because we went, as I mentioned before in the podcast, Justin and I went to Everton away at Stamford Bridge, and it was only a late offside back heel from John Terry that got them the draw.
Oh, yeah.
But then also quite a bit of symmetry in this because Delafeu actually should have run into the corner and given the ball into the corner flag. But actually, he got robbed, and then therefore Terry scored the goal. And then the same kind of thing happened where Memphis Depay, when he scored, when he gave the ball away against Chelsea, then
Sorry, Memphis Deep Pie.
the deep pie.
Deep cross.
You don't get a deep pie anymore, do you? That's the problem. No, all right, Memphis Depay, he gave the ball away instead of going to the corner flag against Man United, and then they got an equaliser there. So I was actually thinking about, are they credible? Although they've got quite a few, undefeated games, they've drawn a few. Are they credible? But they've seen me true, so I can't really.
They're good form. I think they're they're credible. Definitely.
Yeah.
I'm more interested though, Nathan, in the midweek roundup. I know if people have followed it on the website, I'm more interested in your second pick, which for me now goes into possibly contender for bet of the month. Which at the time I gave you so much stick about, so much so.
Well,
that
that's
I
just
named
the standard. It
episode.
happens every week. I get stick.
Well, I'll tell you
Here
why.
we go.
I'm going to justify why. Not because I looked down the list and I made a little long list of the picks I could pick midweek, and I would never in a million years have picked Las Palmas to beat Getafe, which for me is a Spanish La Liga relegation battle that you should avoid at all costs. Now, can you just tell the listeners why and enlighten me personally?
Yeah, well,
about
it was
why,
a 2.0, which I think, to be honest with you, I think it should have been higher bets, but higher odds. Sorry, but Las Palmas weren't in great form. They only won 2 of the last 6. But the reason why I backed them is that when they did lose, they lost tight. It was a tight game, including a game where they lost against Barcelona only 2-1. Now it's a different type of game because obviously you're going to park the bus against Barcelona. They did win their last game, but the main thing that really tipped it in the balance was that Getafe are awful away from home. So when they're away from home, and they've got the worst, obviously, home record in La Liga, they've conceded 12 in 6. They've only scored 2. Now, there's 36 points available this season away from home. Guess how many points that Getafe have yielded? 6. So that meant that away from home, it was going to be awful. And I thought that although Las Palmas weren't winning games, I thought they were obviously still competing in those games. So if they were competing, they're probably going to beat Getafe. They've only got 6 points out of a possible 36 away from home.
You've got 2 quite poor teams, but you've seen that one team has been maybe a bit kind of better represented in those games.
Yeah,
so
and I think
it came in. They were 4-0. 4-0 resounding win.
I thought it was going to be a tight 1-0 or a 2-0 or 2-1.
I was ready to ridicule you on the podcast, and now egg is on my face.
Apart from the under 2.5
We'll have to save
goals
it for next week. We'll be able to ridicule him next week, I'm sure.
Yeah, but I'm really pleased with that. So that's my bets reviewed from the weekend. So it's another 2 out of 2. So that's 4 out of 4 in the past 2 weeks. And we will go over to Justin.
In the past week.
Past week.
So I had a bit of a strange one because I actually got 2 out of 3 because of an overhanging game from well before Christmas. I bet, I think it was probably in November, that Braintree would beat Kidderminster at home.
Unbelievable.
And the game was postponed.
21st of November.
21st of November. So the game was postponed twice, I believe. And after both occasions, it took them a long time to actually reschedule the game. And finally, the game was played on Tuesday, and the score finished 2-1 to Braintree. I can't really say very much because obviously I picked that bet like 4 months ago.
I think it just shows,
I don't know what present form is for either of those teams.
I think it just shows that form is temporary, but class is permanent. And Braintree have obviously got the class they need to beat Kidderminster. So there you go.
Well, the main reason Kidderminster are really poor. I think they're bottom of the league, and they're probably going to go down.
Well, there you go. As I said, I picked that 4 months ago when Braintree were like 5th in the league. I think Braintree have got a huge amount of games in hand on everyone else because of the amount of postponements they've had.
Yeah. I think they're just outside the playoffs now, are they?
They are just outside the playoffs.
But obviously they've got like
with games in hand.
Yeah.
So Braintree could make a late surge for the league next year. My actual bets from the midweek. I had one resounding winner that was fairly low odds. It was 1.4. It was Oxford to beat York. We've discussed York a number of occasions this
Whipping
season.
boys.
Away
Oxford-
from home, at home they were good. I think they won the last
Right.
two or three at home.
Oxford, they lost a big game to Accrington about 2 weeks ago, but since then have won the last 2 or 3. It just had
Yeah, I
home win written all over it, and it took a little while for them to break them down. Like it was 1-0 for a very long time, and then they scored 3 goals in the final 20 minutes, and it finished 4-0 to Oxford in the end. What were you going to say?
I was going to say this season, advice to the FBC listeners is if York are away, back the team who are at home. Like that is a gimme on your accumulator sheet.
But-
I would say. Well, I mean,
Well,
Is it-
we used to think that about Colchester.
Yeah.
True, but
I'm coming to that. Yeah.
that was the thing, because everyone knows that York are terrible away from home, and I was actually thinking about backing them last week at home because obviously their home record is pretty good, or recently it's been pretty good. But you just don't want to back it, and then it be the week where they get a result.
Yeah.
It's just a nightmare scenario. So anyway, York away from home.
Yeah, and so my other one, the one that lost, was I backed Chesterfield to beat Blackpool. Now, I was kind of slightly influenced by the fact that Chesterfield had beaten Gillingham the week before. They'd also won their fixture before that, so they were on a run of wins. Blackpool had lost the last 5 on the trot. And even though they were fairly close to each other in the league, I think Blackpool, they were only separated by 3 or 4 places in the league. Both of them are in the lower third of the table. I really thought Chesterfield would, at 2.1, just seem like really, really good value for the home win.
Not a bad bet at all.
However, Blackpool absolutely, dominated the game in terms of shots on target, shots off target, and chances created. Blackpool dominated. Blackpool took the lead. Chesterfield equalised immediately, and I think, to be quite fair, they kind of got away with a draw when really it looked from the stats as though Blackpool were the better side.
Backing a home team who are also in the bottom third is the away team. I think that's a risky bet for me. I mean, if they're really terrible away from home, like York or somebody like that, or previously Colchester, all right, fair enough. But actually, I'm a little bit, I wouldn't back that. It's a little bit too close to home for me.
I think also Chesterfield, for me, is suffering from a bit of a kind of early season, half season bias, where when I look down the list, I think, they're having a good season because they make that. But actually, in the last few games, they might have had a little bit of a wobble, and they might not be quite as reliable as they were early doors.
Chesterfield?
Is it? Yeah.
No, they weren't reliable at all. They've been losing a lot. I
Yeah.
only backed them because of recent form, because they've been on a run of wins.
Okay.
That was the only reason I backed them.
So they've
to
been
beat
doing quite
Blackpool.
well.
They've bounced back. They were in the bottom 4, then they've started picking up wins, and so. But that's what happens, You bet, you back a 6-pointer. To be honest, if you looked at the table and it was 1-1, you'd probably say that looks about right. It was only on form that I decided to choose.
And
that.
the odds were good, like you say. So
Yeah.
okay.
So that moves us on to you.
Yeah, I mean, so far we've got we were 4 from 6 so far as we go out live on this, so we're not doing too badly. My bet, both teams to score bet was Exeter versus Portsmouth in League 2, which again has been kind to me, and that just sneaked in. Looking at the stats, there were goals all over the place in those two teams, and it came in at 1-1, so the bare minimum of both teams to score results, but. That one came in, so that was Exeter versus Portsmouth at 1.8, which was good. And then I had my absolute solid gold banker, which would never lose.
Which obviously
lost, which is Bradford to beat Colchester. And the last few podcasts, ever since we've started the podcast, everyone's going, just bet on teams to lose has become some sort of motto. So I thought, I'm going to bet on a team to lose. I'm going to do it. I'm going to take the Nathan motto, teams to lose. I thought Colchester, they always lose. And they have been losing for everyone. And as soon as I bet on them, Bradford have been okay. They've been doing quite well at home. And lo and behold, Colchester pull out one of the biggest wins they've had all year.
Yeah.
And they win 2-1 away at Bradford when they've been absolutely atrocious at the back and conceding goals left, right, centre. And that brings our accumulator crashing down. So Bradford lost.
I would say as the
with
person
Chesterfield.
I would say as the person who is introducing the kind of bet on a team to lose. Yes, you do look at the team odds. You look at the obviously the betting odds. You look at the recent form, goals conceded, goals scored. But you really have to have that confidence in the team who is playing them to be able to bang that goals in.
So now you're saying bet on the team to win.
No. Maybe am I going full circle here? but But you've got to really carefully think about, do I still back them? For example, a team in the bottom third to beat the team with the worst away record in the league. I'm not too sure if I'll go for that. I would definitely have to think about that.
That's exactly what you did.
Yeah.
You did that with Las Palmas. You bet on a team in the bottom third.
But that was 4-0. That was 4-0, so that's fine.
I mean, I'm not losing any sleep about that bet, really. I mean, I think it was a good bet. I think most people would have taken that on, and it's just one of those results. You can't. You're not going to back. Everything's not going to win.
Yeah,
so sometimes you just lose.
I reckon I would have bet on that had you not got in there first.
Yeah.
So it was just one of those that happens. A crazy result that it's like just a coupon buster.
Yeah.
That just destroys us. So we got 4 out of 6 there, and we're still waiting on the wildcards picks to fly in tonight, which are
West Ham to be both teams to score versus Spurs, which is 1.8.
So I think actually we'll probably come in. Actually.
Hopefully, yeah. You'd back Spurs to get a goal.
Would you back now? Now we've got a bit of time before the wildcards bets kick off. Would you back the wildcards bets as a double? Have you the faith in the wildcards bets tonight?
Well,
so we've got
just
Atletico Bilbao.
For those people listening, it's Atletico Bilbao versus Deportivo, and he's backing Atletico Bilbao win, which means that is 1.45. I probably wouldn't back it because a 1.8 and a 1.45 probably wouldn't yield that much money. I'd have to put quite a bit of like pound coins on to yield a bit of a decent return on that.
It would be 2.25. So if you bet, 20 quid, you'd get 40
something back. Yeah.
So, I don't know. Do you trust those to come in?
I would say that the West Ham both teams to score versus Spurs is a good result. I haven't researched Athletic Bilbao and Deportivo, so I'll probably stay away from that.
I think that will sail in. Of the two, I think the Bilbao one is the better bet. West Ham against Tottenham should yield goals. It's a derby. They hate each other. They'll both be going at each other. So I think that's probably not a bad. Neither of them's a bad bet, but I think the Bilbao one is fairly safe. I think that's reflected in the odds as well.
It's a big game for Spurs, though, isn't it? If Spurs win that, or if Spurs don't win that, it could have massive ramifications.
If they win, am I right in thinking they're top?
They're top, and obviously they've got the early kickoff on Saturday. If they beat Arsenal on Saturday, then they'll be 4 points clear by 3 o'clock.
Now the atmosphere of that game. I mean, West Ham fans, from my knowledge, hate Spurs. They hate each other. So the atmosphere down at the West Ham ground, the Boleyn ground, will be electric tonight because they'll be wanting to stop Spurs win. So
not to mention it'll be the last time that fixture's actually played at the stadium.
Sure, of course, yeah. Fair enough. So should we move on to?
Well, just before we move on, just to let the Eastleigh fans who tune in, which is a regular feature on this show, the Eastleigh Watch.
The Eastleigh fans in Greece.
The Eastleigh fans in Greece. Eastleigh, it seems to be.
So we're big in Eastleigh and Greece.
But Eastleigh, the reason why we're bringing that up, if you've not listened before, it seems to be the fact that we kind of back them in one way or another some weeks, and it's kind of more often than not. So Eastleigh were actually playing Northampton this week.
Oh my God!
They weren't playing Northampton.
Northampton. No, sorry.
they definitely weren't playing Northampton. Who were they playing?
Oh dear.
Who were they playing?
It was. I think it was it? Oh no.
Cheltenham.
It was Cheltenham. And
that's.
I have. Do you know what? I typed that in last night and I put it on the FBC WhatsApp group, and everyone started coming back at me. It was like machine gun fire on my phone. People saying, "How did they play each other? Like they're not even in the same league."
The one thing we said was, Nathan, on the podcast, do not say that Eastleigh played Northampton. Anyway, moving on. So they played Cheltenham.
But they played Cheltenham and they won. They won 1-0. They won 1-0 at home. So well done to Eastleigh. Obviously, backing those guys who were loyal to the FBC background. But the thing is that Northampton actually is their first defeat since September. Northampton, Cheltenham.
I think we need to scrap this.
Yeah. Cheltenham is their first defeat since September. So it's quite interesting that nobody even backed them since September. I think it's September 26th was the last time. They've drawn a few games, but they also have they've also had a really good result. So it's their first defeat in 20 games.
I think this has put the nail in the coffin of Eastleigh Watch.
Yeah.
As a segment, I think, I'm sorry, but we're never going to Eastleigh again.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
So I think I should slightly move on to this weekend's bets because nobody noticed that.
Yeah. So you're the informed guy. Tell us what you're betting on this weekend.
I'm going to bet on Eastleigh to beat Northampton.
No, he's not. He's not.
He's
He's
not,
not.
he's not.
He's definitely not.
Well, actually, the bet that I wanted was the derby. It was Spurs versus West Ham. I thought that was both teams to score.
Arsenal.
Spurs versus
Arsenal.
Arsenal.
I tell you what, you made me frazzled here. You made me frazzled. But I wanted that
North
that
London
game
derby,
there.
Spurs
Yeah, the North
Arsenal.
London derby, Spurs Arsenal, 1.7. But the thing is, it's an
What?
early
Sorry, what
kickoff.
were you backing in the game?
Both teams to score, and it was a 1.7, which I thought was quite good odds because I think that is definitely a banker. However, in the FBC, we do not back the early kickoff.
Yeah, that's one of the big rules, isn't it?
Yeah, we don't want the afternoons.
Did we
kind
have
of
that
bets.
because when we first started, those many years ago, didn't we have a couple of games that really let us down early doors?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we had a few. I remember betting on Derby to
Derby.
Derby to beat your boys.
Yeah, Forest.
And
Why would you ever back that?
Yeah, that was one of them. But I think it happened a couple of times, so we scrapped the early kickoff.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably a just.
I think it's a good move. Yeah, I think we've actually been caught out quite a few times by people looking at it and thinking, "Oh, I would have backed that," and then it actually didn't come in. So it's a smart move.
So even though Colchester beat Bradford this week in the midweek, which is the one that let Greg down,
Terrible.
I'm going to bet Port Vale to beat Colchester. Now, the reason why is because Colchester won in midweek. They did win away from home, but it's their first win in 20 games. They're still sunk. They're no longer in the division. They might as well play in the one below. But also, Port Vale have the 4th best home record.
Do they?
And Colchester have the 2nd worst in League One. They've only yielded 11 points from 17 games.
Did you know? Sorry,
I think that Port Vale will have enough having that home record to beat Colchester.
You may well know this already, but do you know that Port Vale is the only football league side that is not named after a real place?
It's the only one.
Yeah, it's the only one.
How about Hull? Hull's not a real place, is it?
Hang on. There's no Nottingham Forest, not named after a forest.
It's named after Nottingham,
That's a good
and
stat.
there is quite a famous forest near Nottingham.
Well, there is.
Yeah, Justin does have a point there.
Yeah, that's
Thank you
very
much
good.
for
That's
that.
good.
Yeah.
That's good knowledge. Port Vale doesn't even. You can't find it on the map.
Well, there's no ports in
Yeah.
Stoke.
Oh, okay.
No, yeah, it's right in the middle.
Literally, it's not a real place.
Yeah.
I'm starting to think whether Eastleigh's a real place because they matches against Northampton up here. So yeah, I think this sounds very much like my mindset for the Bradford.
But I
game.
don't think Bradford's
Colchester game.
home record is as good. I think
Right.
Bradford's home record are maybe like 12th in league.
What if
in that league?
Colchester are just starting to put a run of back-to-back wins together?
True, but
It
the
would
other
be
way,
in vain.
The other way of looking at it is, can Colchester seriously win more than one away game on the trot? Which is
Yeah,
very
that's
unlikely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm back in Port
Okay.
Vale there.
And your other one?
Yeah, and the second one is Barnet, which also was involved in last week's betting, versus Hartlepool,
Yeah,
and I'm
let us
backing
down.
a Barnet home win, 1.83. The reason why I'm backing that is because Hartlepool, again, have the 2nd worst away record, but also Barnet have the 2nd best home record. They're not great in recent form. They've only won 2 of the last 6, but I think that this is going to be another Las Palmas, and that is 1.83. So I think Barnet will have enough at home.
I like that bet as well. I think it's a good bet. It looks good on the stats, and I think just from knowing a bit about Barnet, if you're a team who's in midweek, who last Saturday had a great comeback, that would have felt like a win for the Barnet team against Accrington when it destroyed my bets for the week.
Yeah.
But that would have been really good for them. They can't wait to play again. You've all played in those,
Especially
teams,
at home as well.
Especially at home, you're back at home. You've had a great result, get away at quite a good Accrington side. You're ready to take it out on a Hartlepool team. So I think that one will be good. Yeah.
All right, so
yeah,
I've actually got a bet where I'm not being lambasted.
I think didn't Barnet also beat Portsmouth in their last home game?
They might well have
I'm
done.
sure that was last week.
Yeah.
Portsmouth haven't been on great form recently. They've not played well.
They're still in the top 5 though, aren't they?
Yeah.
Okay, so move on to mine. Okay, so first and foremost, I'm going with my kind of old favourites. They haven't let me down this season, and I'm hoping they don't let me get down again. That's Sheffield Wednesday at home to Rotherham.
Yeah.
Rotherham fighting a relegation battle, and that does worry me slightly because we are getting to the time of year where backing against the teams at the bottom is a little bit dangerous because they become less predictable because they've got everything to kind of play for and kind of nothing to lose. Now, every year we see in every kind of division, there'll be at least 1 or 2 teams that will suddenly make a surge or put a run of wins together. So that's my one little worry about it, is that, Rotherham could be that team. However, Sheffield Wednesday haven't let me down this season so far.
Do you know who the new Rotherham manager is?
I'm sure you're going to tell me.
It's Neil Warnock.
Oh,
And
wow.
he
I did not know that.
Very big connections with Sheffield United. And they're playing Sheffield Wednesday in this game to them. You see, so it could be something that Neil works quite
that
hard for.
you cannot put down to stats. That is just emotion. It's raw. He's
so
going to be up for it. He's going to get the boys
basically what I'm saying is
tanked up.
Rotherham are going to be up for it. He's going to get those boys up for it.
I would also like to point out though he's not a very good manager.
I'd agree with that.
I would disagree. To a certain point, he can be. You know, in the Championship
but he does
and
get his
below.
teams up for it, I think.
Yeah, for the Championship and below, he does. In the Premiership, he's not a proven manager.
Sheffield Wednesday fans will certainly know that he's the manager, and they'll be quite up for it as well.
Yeah,
I suppose.
yeah,
I think it'll be quite a cauldron sort of atmosphere there.
Is it a derby?
I think it is a
Rotherham's
derby.
Yorkshire, isn't it?
Yeah, it is Yorkshire.
It's not proper. It's not the Steel City derby, but
No.
I think
but it's not
it's
far
a
to travel
derby.
for those two.
I quite like that. Wednesday, you've got the 4th best home record.
I still
and
you in your home and away record.
Rotherham have got the 23rd best. 23rd out 24 away record.
I think Wednesday. I think
that's
most.
I like
it.
it.
Now the other one I've gone for, I had to change my mind. I originally went for Chelsea to beat Stoke, and it's kind of similar to what you were talking about earlier. Chelsea do look like they're on form. They're unbeaten in a long time. It just had that little kind of something was going off in the back of my mind, thinking Chelsea-Stoke.
Yeah.
That's that kind of weird game that Stoke might get a draw out of.
Yeah, it is. And last season, Charlie
Adam, and it kind of just niggled away at me a little bit. Stoke, they beat Aston Villa at the weekend.
Yeah, they're
1-0. Only a tight one. 1-0.
2-1.
2-1. Sorry,
2-1.
my bad. Sorry, 2-1.
They seem to have come out of their dip. They had a really big dip. They had a good bit of form, and then in the new year it dipped. I didn't feel very comfortable with that. And at 1.53, I felt that the odds could have been a bit higher, maybe 1.6, 1.7. So I've gone, and I do have some reservations about this. I've gone for Millwall to beat Blackpool. Now, Millwall are in really good form. Out of almost nowhere, they've risen to about 4th in the table.
Good at home.
They haven't lost for quite a while. My only reservation is that I backed against Blackpool in midweek, and they managed to get a draw against Chesterfield.
I think you're fine there. I think that'll come in.
I think this is a different kettle of fish. I think Millwall, if you look at the games they haven't won recently, for example, they drew with Wigan. Now, Wigan are flying high in the league at the moment. If that's the only points they're dropping, then you would think they'd be dispatching Blackpool at home fairly comfortably. My one reservation with that is obviously I backed against Blackpool and they managed to get a draw against Chesterfield, but I think this might go differently. I'm kind of hopeful about this.
I like that. That's a double. I think that's good. I think they're two good solid picks. They've got good form. It's good all round. I think I can't criticise you too much there.
Yeah, the latter one I don't know too much about, to be honest with you, so I'll hold on that. But the first one definitely I like. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Over to me,
Greg.
Sorry, I just want to point out I've got the approval of the most informed member of the FBC.
Tell everybody about that. Put it on the Twitter.
Okay, so I'm over the top of the league. That's Greg, and I've decided to go to the Prem for my two this week. I've been a bit worried by my form in the lower leagues. I've had Accrington just burn me and Bradford have burnt me, so I'm going for non-stop quality.
I don't know if that's is that in poor taste?
The English Premier League.
That Bradford have burnt you. I don't know if that's...
Say to Bradford, I didn't mean that as a historical slur on your ground, but I've gone for Man City in the Villa game on Saturday to be over 2.5 goals. Ooh. So I'm banking that Man City are going to win 3-4-0. And I've had it on good advice that Man City will definitely win that game 4-0. Isn't that right?
I love it. I've got to say I'm all over that bet, and I almost picked it. And if we're being quite honest,
I just think Villa.
I influenced you quite a lot.
I think Jolyon Lescott alone will score 3 own goals in that game, because I've been watching his performance as a centre back myself of great repute. Just Jolyon Lescott is having an absolute mare, and there is no way that Aguero is not going to score a goal, or even if they play anyone up front, it doesn't really matter. They're going to score goals. Man City are not going to lose that game, so they're going to win 1-0 definitely. They're definitely going to win 2-0. There's goals in that, all day long. At 1.53, I can't see how that's not going to come in.
I mean, I'll just because I actually watched obviously the 90 minutes of Everton versus Aston Villa last night, and what has gone from Villa, even more than it had gone before, is any kind of spirit whatsoever. Their fans have given up, but the players have given up. Every time a goal went in, it was a bit of a shrug of the shoulders and let's get on with it again. And they actually had a little bit of possession in the first half. They brought a couple of saves out of Joel, but as soon as the the tempo was upped by Everton. They went through them like nothing. And Man City, with, like you said, with Aguero, with Silva, even with Yaya Toure.
And it's not like they're turning up at Stoke. They're turning up at a team that can win the league, that need to win the league. So
I've backed them at 7-1 to win the league.
There you go. So I mean, they've got a chance, and they need to win that game. They're going to go for it. It's not like they're going to just try and drift through. I mean, they might be complacent maybe, but the only thing that would worry me about the bet is that Villa aren't going to score. So we're basically counting on Man City to score more than 2 goals.
I said to you, I think it'll be 4-0 to Man City. My only reason I wouldn't bet on that is because I think Man City could score even more. I really think Villa are
that bad.
Are that bad. They're that bad this season.
Okay.
I really feel for Villa fans. They've just had an abomination, and I've got to be honest.
It's a shocker, yeah.
Johnny Lescott is absolutely. I don't know what the word is to describe him. I mean, I've followed his career really because I've watched a lot of Wolves play growing up there.
Yeah,
he was unbelievable. Right foot, left foot, playing it out from the back, solid defender.
Yeah,
and
good player.
Then
Everton,
he went up. Yeah, Everton.
He was
and
quality.
Championship manager wise. Wow. I mean, wow. His career on Championship was even better.
Yeah,
but the thing is, I would say this about him when he left Everton. He left Everton under a cloud. He'd asked for a transfer request. And he went to a Man City side that I think he was out of his depth. He didn't play. He didn't play. He lost his place in the England team. But I also think the reason he was so successful at Everton was actually Phil Jagielka. I think a lot of people looked at that defence and saw Johnny Lescott younger, more athletic,
quicker,
actually not the better player. Jagielka's the better player of the two, and actually he made Lescott look really good. And I think Lescott had that massive price tag on him when he 24 million in the end when he went to Man City, and I think it was a fantastic piece of business by Everton. But I think it's since that moment, since he left Everton, his career, he'll say, but I've won a few Premier League titles and a few.
It's
cups.
only one, isn't it? Well, obviously, I say only one, but one is better than none.
Yeah.
But
So he's won cups as well. But at the end of the day, I think professionally, and in terms of if you look, he didn't really get picked for England when he was at Man City either. I think his
it's just like
his
like
career's been on the slide.
Go through his career. He's won things. He's been England player. He's been good, and you look through it, and you watch him on Match of the Day or you watch the games. It's just nowhere near that level. I mean, how can you let your quality drop? If you're not that good in the first place, he's obviously playing at a level so far below his best that you just think, well, where's your head? Where's your head at? Where are you? What's going on?
It brings me back to the game where Man City were playing away at Nou Camp a few years ago, and he was
at Northampton.
He was
Six Fields.
He was playing beside Vincent Kompany, and in that same game, and Man City needed a result. I think they'd lost at home, or they needed a few goals, and they needed to keep a clean sheet. But there was quite a few injuries. I think Demichelis was injured, and Lescott was at the centre half. And I saw the very best centre half performance I've ever seen in a game of football, which is Vincent Kompany, and also the worst centre half performance against that team, which was Johnny Lescott. And don't get me wrong, it was very difficult for him because he was rusty, he hadn't played, etc., etc. But he was embarrassing, and at times you could see Kompany look at him and be like, "Are you having a laugh?" But at the same time, like you said, it was a product of his kind of situation at Man City, and we have to bear that in fact. But he hasn't really played at Villa. And the surprising thing, really, is that last game when Micah Richards was out, he was captain. So he must be doing something right.
It's experience. I mean, you look at that team and they lack a lot of Premier League experience. They've brought in a lot of very average players from abroad for a lot of money. I didn't realise this, but the amount of money they've spent all the Benteke money on players with unproven Premier League quality, and that means that when they look around for captain, yes, Micah Richards is the obvious choice, but after that, who is your captain? Julian Lescott's the Premier League experience in the team.
True.
Other than that, there isn't any there.
I mean, and there's no chance they're going to avoid the drop, is there?
No.
They're
down.
They're gone.
So definitely down.
So I'm essentially banking that Man City are going to score loads of goals against them, which I think will come in.
I think I actually thought about that as well, but I don't like backing the over 2.5 goals. I think it's a bit of a risky one, but I can see where you've done it.
Okay. And my other one in the Prem is for Everton versus West Ham to be both teams to score. Now, I think this is a strong bet. It's 1.7, which is my higher value bet, and I know that. I think I'm banking on West Ham's away record to be very good, which it is, and Everton's home record to be poor, which it is. But I think that Everton versus West Ham, they traditionally have a lot of kind of goals between them. I think they can both score. I think they've got good strike forces. I think there's a lot of goals in that game. I think also West Ham are going for something this season. Everton, but I'm not sure they are actually aiming for anything at the moment. But
we're about 4 points off like 5th place.
I can just see that. I can just see that having goals in it, and I couldn't pick a winner either way. So I can see like a 2-2 potentially correct score.
Yeah,
bet
I think that's not a bad bet. I think if you talk to any West Ham fan, they hate playing Everton. Like, we are their bogey team, and Lukaku is their bogey man. He scores so many goals against them.
I'd be very happy if Lukaku scores.
Talk to any West Ham fan, they hate the sight of Lukaku. He scored in his debut for Everton, and he's scored in every game he's played against them since. And in many cases, he scored braces against them. He scored against them earlier this season. But our home record's awful.
Yeah, that's the thing that worries me. If it was the other way around, if West Ham were at home and Everton were away, I'd back Everton to get 1, if not 2. But at home, I don't know.
Everton will get a goal.
Score. I don't think I'm not necessarily.
We'll never bet Everton to win that.
I don't think. I don't think we'll necessarily win that at all. We've got. I think the bookies have been quite. I don't know whether you want to call it generous or harsh. They're Everton at 1.8, which I think is ludicrous. I think it should be a lot higher because West Ham are...
Yeah, I would never back Everton.
I'd say West Ham are a better side than us this season, if I'm being completely honest. And our home record's awful. I would have expected us to be more around the 2.1 mark.
Would you not say that Everton are probably a better team than West Ham, but West Ham are more consistent?
How do you measure a better team? If you line up all the players and say, is their left back better than our left back, and so on and so forth, then player for player. But actually, the way a team plays is what makes them better.
League points. I mean, the league doesn't lie. I think West Ham are way higher than Everton.
It's about 3 points.
Is it?
Yeah, it's not much. It's not much higher.
Way higher. It's a marathon
so they're
to
about
get
level.
catch
Okay, so in that case, then they're pretty equal.
My only
I think West Ham are better, aren't they?
My only worry about it is that since, and I've said it before in the show, since Joel Robles has come in, we've kept, I think, 4 clean sheets out of the last 6 games. We are better at the back.
Yeah.
However, I don't think we've played a side as good as West Ham in that time. So I think West Ham probably will get a goal, if not 2 against us.
And Balassi's back for them as well.
Balassi plays for Crystal Palace.
Oh my word.
This is Nathan. This is the most informed member of the FBC who clearly knows very little about the Premier League.
Payet's back for them. Sorry,
Payet's back. I was thinking Payet's back, and
also
also better than Payet is Mikel Antonio, who is my vote for best player of the,
as
in
a
the world.
Forest fan.
As a Forest fan, he was absolutely electric, scoring ridiculous goals all day long in the Championship, and he's gone to West Ham. And he's a little period of start where he's just out nowhere.
He didn't play.
Didn't even play. And now he starts coming to the team. People are starting to think, actually, this guy's all right. And he got described on Match of the Day at the weekend as a journeyman. At 24-year-old to be a journeyman, he's not like Steve Claridge. This guy's scoring great goals in the Premier League. He's curling things in from outside the box.
Outside bet for the European Championships.
If I was in charge of the England team, Mikel Antonio.
I know if you were.
Mikel Antonio would be captain. He would be in there. He's an absolute legend.
No way. I think
we've got great central midfielders, but we don't have a really good wide man coming in.
That's exactly right.
And that's what Mikel Antonio gives you.
Yeah.
I think if you're going to play 4-5-1, as we tend to do, with one kind of withdrawn striker and one up top, you need those wide players to be able to tuck in as well. And we've got got Dele Alli in the middle. We've got Barkley in the middle. We've got some really good central midfielders, but we don't, Oxlade-Chamberlain's not.
No. He's better than Oxlade-Chamberlain.
He's definitely better than Oxlade-Chamberlain.
He does have the feel of a pub player. He's a big lad. He puts himself about, which I love, by the way.
He's
fantastic.
He's direct, isn't he?
He's direct, and that's what you need. And I think that's what also we might give England an advantage in the end. We don't want to play like Spain, so we can't. We want direct players. But anyway,
I don't see it. For me, the reason why is because we've got. I mean, there's people like Milner, there's Sterling. Obviously, Rooney's played out on the left before. There's people like Lallana who's outside. Hodgson likes Lallana.
Yeah, he does.
And I don't think that he would sacrifice a centre forward to play on the wing.
He is.
And,
I think he's
do a job.
And I'm not saying this because of my anti-Liverpool bias. I think he's better than Lallana.
He's better than Lallana, and he's quicker than Lallana. He's going to get the ball in the box quick.
Theo Walcott's out there.
Forget Theo Walcott. Anyway, what I hope for on Saturday is that Ross Barkley scores a nice quick early goal, and then Mikel Antonio scores a hat-trick, And that'd be And
Why would you? Why you just need both teams to score? Why do you need us to lose?
Yeah, actually, sorry. Yeah. So Ross Barkley hat trick and Michael Antonio hat trick. Anyway, so that's my pick. So Man City over 2.5 at 1.53, and then Everton versus West Ham, both teams score 1.7, which brings us neatly to the last two of our 8, which is the wild cards.
Oh Lord,
which have come in, and
He's
through it. Or?
He, she, or it. Whoever it is not in good form recently. So I think this is going to be quite a bit of an issue here. But
one of them worries me.
I do like the first one, which is
Dortmund versus Bayern Munich, which is both teams to score 1.66.
That's the 5. I think it's 5 p.m. or 5:30 kickoff in Germany.
Not 2:30.
Not 2:31.
Thank
so
God.
At least we kind of be. If we're still in it at that stage, we have to go live to that one. So we'll probably be on some sort of stream, and we have to watch that at 1.6. I think that's going to come in. I mean, they're both. That is the title fight in Germany.
What's the kind of legacy with it? Is it for example, if you look at La Liga and you look at the Clasico, that's almost always both teams to score. Is the same the case with Dortmund and Munich?
That's a good point. I don't know. I think if the wildcard could inform us via Twitter why he picked that would be quite good. But
I don't think his mum lets him use Twitter after 9.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I'll also make the point that Bayern have been quite tight on goals. They've been quite stringent on they've been quite good in defence, which is not something you necessarily expect. But Dortmund blazing goals all over the shop. They were 1-0 down last week. I can't remember who against now, but they were 1-0 down about 70 minutes to go, and they won 3-1.
Yeah.
So I think they can always come back.
I actually had a mate who backed. I think he backed 9 results, and 8 of them that come in. And Dortmund were 1-0 down after 80 minutes, and he cashed out, and they ended up winning 3-1.
Oh,
so it was a bit of a nightmare for him.
Never cash out. That's my tip.
I'd like to
cash out.
I'd like to point out that I actually won over $1,000 the other day by cashing out. It was actually Oxford versus Accrington Stanley was the last game I needed. I needed Oxford to win. I cashed out. 30 seconds later, Accrington scored. I would have got nothing had I not cashed out.
But I think you made a wise decision there because you were watching it and you knew that there was a man sent off in that game.
Yeah, an Accrington player.
But normally I would say...
An Accrington player got sent off. So Oxford should have been the ones to win.
True.
Anyway, so don't take that advice. If you get the opportunity to win over £1,000, do cash out.
Yeah, I think if it's big money, then you've got to think carefully. But normally I would say don't cash out.
Yeah, I mean...
the bookies wouldn't offer it otherwise. If cash out is obviously helping the bookies. Otherwise they wouldn't do it.
Although I did take £1,000 from the bookies.
Yeah. Yes.
going back to the wildcards bets. I mean, the recent head-to-heads is Bayern Munich 5, Borussia Dortmund 1, and
how many goals?
That was 5-1. Bayern Munich, and then they drew before that, and then the one before that was a 1-0 Bayern Munich goal.
1-0.
1-0.
What was the draw? What was the draw?
The draw was a 1-1.
Okay.
And the Bayern Munich recent game is a 5-1 win for Bayern Munich.
They score a lot of goals. I'm just worried that he's or he or she or it has just kind of looked at it and just that's got to come in too easy, not done the research. I mean, who knows? But
the last 4 has been both teams to score. I don't mind it.
It should do. At 1.66, it's fair enough, I guess.
He did have to work on his geography homework. So you may not have had the opportunity to do the research.
I think I've got quite a bit of homework to do this week. Those are my fixtures, and also who plays for who. Don't know what it is, but it's gone Pete Tong for me.
The second one for the wild card was is Wigan, isn't it, to beat Peterborough at 1.8. Now
I don't like this.
I like Wigan. Wigan have been in good form at home,
like this one.
But go on. Well, you talk to it. I think I've got similar reservations.
I've generally haven't backed for or against Peterborough because
hard team to read.
They're a good side. They're in the top half of the table. They have beaten some of the top sides. They've lost to some of the bottom sides. They're quite unpredictable. They score goals quite a lot. They often get 1 or 2, often get 2 or more goals in games. Yeah. I think Wigan will either blitz them, which they have done to teams at home, but I don't think they will actually. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that because I think that game will be tight, and I think Peterborough will score. That's what I think, and that's one of the things that worries me about that fixture.
It doesn't stand out to me as an absolute stick on that we're going to win that game, which is what we should be aiming for, really. If we're going to put it into an accumulator, you should be saying that's not going to let you down. this is a definite banker.
It feels to me as if it's a bet where he's looked at the league table, looked at form and gone, Wigan are near the top, I'm going to bet on them, and he hasn't really looked at who they're looking to play against. That's what I feel like.
The reason why I feel a bit sketchy about it is because Wigan were away at Millwall last game and they drew that 0-0. They had a man sent off, so it's going to impact on their starting 11. Also, they did win the two before that, but also Wigan drew at home to Oldham, and that was the one that I backed. Which we thought was a derby or not, but we didn't. And we know that Oldham don't score very many goals in that league. But that was a 0-0, and I don't really like Wigan just because I'm not too sure what they're like, kind of in that scenario. So it's Wigan at home. The league table says that it should be a home win. Let's see, but I think Wigan a little bit more unpredictable than we might think they are.
I've got less worries about Wigan, and more my worries are about actually that Peterborough are a good side, and Peterborough can go there and actually get something.
I agree actually, but the only thing I would say is Las Palmas, because I thought Las Palmas were going to be a terrible bet and it would have 4-0. So let's hope Wigan win 4-0.
I had great confidence in my Las Palmas bet.
Bet
of the season. Bet of the season.
If you put all of those 8 bets together, which you can find a full rundown of those bets on our website, at thefootballbetclub.com. But we'll just run it down now, I suppose. Anyway, why not? Do you want me to do it? Or
yeah, you go for it.
So it's Millwall 1.61. Sheffield Wednesday to win at 1.72. We've got Barnet to win at 1.8 and Port Vale to win at 1.83. And then it's Wigan to win at 1.8. The Man City versus Villa game to have over 2.5 goals at 1.53. And Everton West Ham, both teams to score 1.7. And then the late kickoff, which I've just realised means we'll be all waiting on the a la Bournemouth, both teams to score from a few weeks ago.
Which is the last time that the wildcard let us down.
Evening kickoff in Germany, which is Dortmund versus Bayern, both teams to score 1.66. You put all those together, all those 8 bets, it is a 68-1 8-game accumulator.
It's quite low this week, is it not?
Relatively low.
Relatively low. So we've been a bit more conservative there in our
considering
bets.
when the wildcard let us down, I think it was 144-1.
Yeah. We have had bigger priced accumulators in the past.
We should also point out that we will obviously stake some money on this, but we do not bet irresponsibly. We do not bet our lives away or anything, and we would urge that anyone who does decide to follow our picks gambles responsibly.
Yeah, absolutely.
We should also point out that you can pick and choose. You can look at Nathan's great form and think, I want to use both his bets.
His inform is on fire.
And then you can look at the wild cards bets and think, I want nothing to do with those bets. So, pick and choose. Don't necessarily shadow everything we do.
Yeah. Is this the right moment to just make a little moment of the global bet of the week? Which now last week
didn't go well, did it?
I decided to appease our massive following in Greece, and I went to the Greek Premier League, which some people called. Justin called me out and said that is not even in the realms of global bet. It's too close to home. It's too high profile a league.
Absolutely.
And I went for Panionios.
At home,
if that's how you pronounce it.
Ronnie Whelan's former club.
And they let me down spectacularly, going down 1-0 in the first 5 minutes to lose 2-0 without even a whimper. I didn't get anything back from the Twitter following on that. And I'm never going back to the Greek Premier League now.
So that means you've lost. Hang on, just to inform these people who were thinking about backing it. That is 1 win and also out of 3, 2 losses in the past few weeks.
That is not too bad. So, but this week I need some good form, and when you need good form.
I'm going to say, please go back to the West Bank League. No. Please go back to the West Bank League.
When you need good form, there's only one place you go, and that is Uganda Division 2. I'm not kidding. There's a massive game in Uganda Division 2 on Betfred.
It's always a massive game in Uganda.
It is massive, and this takes place on Friday the 4th of March, so it's an early one. And it is the Busia Fisheries versus Kira Young FC.
Let me just write this down.
Busia Fisheries are a massive value bet at 1.53.
That's not a massive 1.5.
The Busia Massive are very, very strong at home in the fishery district. That doesn't make any sense. But Uganda Division 2, that's where we're going for the global bet this week, and it will come in well to make it 2 from 4.
Well, I don't know about the Ugandan second division, but if you do want more global bets of the week action, please go to @Greg_FBC. Follow him on Twitter. You can also follow me at FBC Nathan. Also, if you would choose to, you can follow the wildcard at wildcard_FBC, and Justin is available on Twitter at FBC_Justin. Just a reminder that www.thefootballbetclub.com is where you can find all the this week's odds. And also, you can tune into our Facebook page, which is the Football Bet Club.
I should also point out, and I did this at the end of last show, that we have a SoundCloud and a Mixcloud page. I told you that last week we had one comment on our podcast. We had another comment this week from someone different.
Big news!
And all it said was, epic yah.
Oh!
I think that's the first real massive watershed moment we've had here.
Yeah,
actually,
epic yah.
That means on social media it's been a big week
Yeah,
because
of
we had a comment, but also we were tweeted by the Stuttgart
Oh,
official
massive.
European Twitter account. The reason why they have a European one is because one is in German, which is for the German people, and then also for the people who don't speak German, they have it in English. And we were obviously tweeting about the game, we were tagging them in the tweets, and they came back and said, "Don't worry, they're definitely going to get a goal.
Yeah.
Stuttgart's going to come in," and it failed.
Yeah, they
but
lost.
obviously, big up to the love of the official European version.
I think Stuttgart have become my German team. Just
Really?
because of that. I didn't ever had one before, but now I think I support Stuttgart.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think I might stick my hand up for that as well.
Yeah, it was good. Good week.
Yeah. Good week. So social media is kicking off on the FBC. So please tune in next week and also check us out on social media. Please get involved. There's comment pages on everything that we do. So please do get involved in that way. And enjoy your week. Happy
Enjoy the
betting.
bets. Happy betting. See you later.
Yeah, get rich.